a victory won not only for our own time, but for the long and better days that are to come.
This is the BBC Home Service. We're interrupting programs to make the following announcement.
We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing.
But never really the last fun.
This morning, 55 world leaders representing those who fought on both sides of the war joined together in giving thanks in St. Paul's Cathedral for delivery from the war in Europe. Those who died in battle, those civilians who were the victims of war or died in extermination camps, all were remembered and honored. From St. Paul's, the heads of state, government and other representatives moved to Buckingham Palace for lunch with Her Majesty the Queen, a gathering that even that palace has surely not often witnessed. The cavalcade of limousines and official cars arrived at Buckingham Palace. Chancellor Cole, one of the most important guests of this anniversary, of course, the Chancellor of Germany, King Hussein, the senior head of state, apart from Her Majesty the Queen, and others were all there. Vice President Al Gore, representing the United States, Mr. Clinton, of course, is going straight on to Moscow for the celebrations there. He's represented by the Russian Prime Minister, Mr. Chernomyrdin, and all the important allies in the war and the main adversary were there. What was particularly nice was the President Mitterrand of France was at the lunch, almost certainly his last official state event as President of France, because there'll be a new president later today. And they lunched with the Queen. They finished there a short while ago. And of course, 10 years ago, this afternoon's reconciliation event in Hyde Park could hardly have taken place. After all, the Cold War showed that the wartime allies were united against Hitler, but were deeply divided over the future of the world. Only since the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of communism has such an event really been possible. It's in fact taken 50 years for the legacy of World War II in the shape of the Cold War to be liquidated. But there's another kind of reconciliation this afternoon, that between the generations. Children, youth, and a pledge for a peaceful future are central to the ceremonial. And children and their families are here in large numbers to emphasize that the 50th anniversary of VE Day isn't just a time for honorable looking back, but for an optimistic commitment to the future, that the hard-won peace will continue to benefit the children and grandchildren of those who won the war.
Well, we wouldn't be having this due today if it hadn't been for a certain amount of suffering and hardship, would we? We've got to be a bit realistic about things and said, well, what we did back in the 1939-45, you got this to show for it today, otherwise it could have been a different.
It's a feeling of sadness, but it's really a feeling of enjoyment as well. Because, you know, we lost a lot of men, and when you're on a bomber station, you count the number of planes going out and you count the number coming back, and it was very distressing, you know, when some went missing.
We who come back are the lucky ones. There's so many million unlucky ones. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I think it was all worthwhile. And let's hope our kids and grandchildren won't have to face it.
Well, all kinds of memories really, some sad, but today's a joyful occasion. About 50 years of peace, no more quarrelling, fighting, no more wars, and I've got no hatred for anybody. It's a day of peace, and I'm at peace.
It's a commemoration, I think, for me, of 50 years of peace. We forgive, but we never forget. That's my philosophy.
One part of Britain still has its problems of reconciliation, the Channel Islands. Islands. Invaded by the Germans on June the 30th, 1940, they were the only part of Great Britain to suffer German occupation. There's no doubting the suffering endured. What's more difficult for some to come to terms with is the allegation of collaboration made against some Channel Island citizens. But as other occupied European countries have discovered, arguments about who resisted the Nazis, who collaborated with them, have never been satisfactorily resolved. This weekend, the islands are celebrating their liberation with an extra intensity. So let's join Juliet Morris in Guernsey.
A host of special events are planned here in the build-up to the day when freedom finally came. But even 50 years on, the Channel Islands still bear the scars of occupation. The postponement of the invasion of Britain brought an intensive period of fortification here, and artillery batteries, direction-finding towers and troop shelters still stand today. They're a constant reminder of the suffering that was caused to the islanders and to the thousands of forced labourers drafted in from around Europe to build them. Well, Major Jack Clement led the detachment of 200 liberating British forces through the streets of St. Peter Port behind us here on May the 9th, 1945. Major Clement, tell me what you found when you got here.
Well, we had a wonderful reception on that morning. I shall never forget it. They'd been waiting for 5 years for us to come, and so they were pleased to see us. But they weren't in very good shape. They'd been short of food for quite a year or so. But from the January of 1945 through to May, the Swedish steamship VE50 had been bringing Red Cross parcels in.
And how about the Germans? What state were they in?
The Germans were in a worse state than the islanders. Their supplies have ceased from the Normandy landing time, and they were really very short of food and had been living on cabbage water for about 5 months. And their billets stank of cabbage water, and they were very poor shape.
And how did the islanders cope after liberation?
Well, they quickly recovered. I think freedom was the main thing, and then followed from freedom, they had food and supplies came in, and they quickly picked up the thread of life.
Major Clement, thank you very much for sharing your memories with us. Now back to John Chusa.
In Northern Ireland, the feelings are particularly complex, and not merely because of the wartime experiences. Last week, in a striking gesture, the Irish Prime Minister John Bruton honoured the 150,000 Irishmen from both sides of the border who took part in the war against Hitler. And he singled out the 10,000 Irishmen who died, as he put it, while serving in British uniform in an island defined and divided by its history. That was surely a sign that things may be moving on the road to peace. John Cole has been looking at the VE Day celebrations from the perspective of Northern Ireland.
Flags and bunting are the symbols of victory, but genuine peace, as people in Ulster painfully know, has to be worked for. This was my home when German bombers attacked on Easter Tuesday 1941. They killed more people on that single night than in almost any other British city. Nobody believed the Luftwaffe could penetrate this far, so Belfast was almost without defences. We didn't have any air raid shelter, so we used the kitchen table for protection.
They say you don't hear the bomb that's going to hit you. That particular night, I heard the bomb all the way that hit Ballycastle Street and demolished the whole of the street. We ran up the road as fast as we could, trying to dodge fire bombs falling all over the place, dodging in and out of doorways. I remember very well, there was a woman and her house had been completely demolished. She had lost everything. And yet she offered my wife's father a blanket to put round his shoulders because it was so very cold.
3 of my schoolmates and their parents were killed on this street. The pitiful detritus of their homes, shoes, clothing, sheet music were blown into our garden and ruined my father's efforts to dig for victory. This city has longer experience than most of the contrast between war and peace. The past quarter century of terrorism has produced a slow drip of death and cruelty. Although this had nothing like the concentrated savagery of wartime air raids, both conflicts offer us the same moral. When the killing has stopped, genuine peace comes only when ancient enemies seek reconciliation through compromise. In Ulster, that painful process has only just begun and remains uncertain and fitful.
Happily, that process is further down the road here, back here in Hyde Park in London. The crowds are more or less settled in. The national leaders and representatives have made their way here from Buckingham Palace. And as we await the arrival of Her Majesty the Queen, let's join Eric Robs.
The crowned heads, heirs to the throne, presidents and ministers of 55 countries began arriving a few minutes ago by coach from their lunch at Buckingham Palace. It's the biggest gathering of world leaders since the coronation. Their hosts are members of the British royal family, beginning to gather in the royal box. Already there, the Prince and Princess of Wales, Prince William, Prince Harry. Also here will be Prince Edward and the Princess Royal. Mr. Major arriving. One of many hundreds of politicians who are joining us for this event this afternoon. And in this 50-acre arena in Hyde Park, a crowd estimated to total 100,000 waits to greet them. Many thousands of volunteer performers will entertain them. There are the massed choirs under the direction of Sir David Wilcox. They'll be accompanied by the European Youth Orchestra, and there are musicians too from the Guards and the Royal Marines. But the focus of this event is the globe, decked out in the flowers of the world, to which the heads of state will process to take part in a symbolic gesture of international reconciliation on an unprecedented scale. They'll make their pledge to the children of the world, many thousands of them assembled here, arguably the most important guests of all. Amongst the heads of state gathered here are representatives of all sides in the most destructive conflict in world history. Joining us this afternoon to sit close to the Prime Minister will be President Herzog of Germany. Behind them, the Australian Defence Minister will sit just a couple of seats away from the Italian ambassador. There are representatives from India. Vice President Gore will represent the United States. Václav Havel, the Czech Republic. And President Clarides of Cyprus, who flew with the RAF during the war, was shot down over Germany and held prisoner in Stalag 8B.
We who fought have bitter memories, and we don't want those bitter memories to be for the new generations. It's not very pleasant, bombing, destroying people. It's a necessary thing to do at wartime, but how much better the world would be without that. So I think that any veteran who has really fought in the war should be very glad to see reconciliation.
There are representatives here too from brave Malta, from Pakistan, from Azerbaijan, and from Latvia. And representing Israel, there's President Ezer Weizmann, who served with the RAF in Egypt and India.
There's quite a lot of association between Germany and Israel today. As a matter of fact, I'm going to visit Germany in a few months' time. The German president was in Israel. He spoke in our Knesset, and there wasn't one catcall. I was sitting with my fingers crossed because we have a very political parliament, and I think it's going on. But it's not like Britain faced Germany in the Battle of Britain, Spitfires facing Messerschmitts or tanks facing tanks. We met the Germans in Auschwitz, which is a different kettle of fish.
all today focused on reconciling the often conflicting aims of a troubled world. Prince Edward has already taken his place on this thundery, sultry afternoon. People looking out from the royal box, hoping for a breath of air to stir the flags around the globe. Vice President Al Gore has taken his place here in London with his wife Tipper. There are representatives of so many countries, from South America, from Asia, from Africa, and from all over Europe and the Middle East. Tony Blair swapping reminiscences with Lord Callaghan, getting some advice from the elder statesman. This gathering is a gazetteer of world history. When you look at the countries that were actually involved in the conflict on both sides, countries many of whose names disappeared with the schoolboy atlas. But all of whom fought with dedication, hoping for a better world as a result. The Princess Royal, here with her husband. Commander Timothy Lawrence. As well as the packed box of heads of state and ministers, we also have a full complement of veterans here. Many of them have struggled with the heat in these last few days. St. John Ambulance has worked very hard to keep them enjoying these great events. Her Majesty arrives behind the royal stand, welcomed by the Lord Lieutenant, Field Marshal the Lord Bramall, accompanied by her lady-in-waiting, the Duchess of Grafton, her private secretary, and her equerry, Major James Patrick. Early today, she's played host to the heads of state at Buckingham Palace. After their fine lunch, they make their way to Hyde Park. Paul Wilkinson there, presenting a posy of peace roses to Her Majesty. Peace roses will feature quite heavily in the decorations of the royal box today. They were actually bred in France just before the war. There were only a few bushes, and cuttings from them were flown out just before the fall of France in an American diplomatic bag. The roses were bred on in America during the war and revealed to the world on VE Day. conducted through the proceedings by Sir Ian McKellen.
Your Majesty and distinguished guests, welcome to Hyde Park for this simple ceremony of peace and reconciliation. This event is not just for the mighty and the influential, not just for those of us who are old enough to remember, but for the many thousands of young people who are here from all over the world and with whom we join in hoping for a secure and happy future. The European Union Youth Orchestra is made up of players from 15 countries. They are joined today by young musicians from the United States of America and from Russia. With the fanfare trumpeters of the massed bands, they first play for us a fanfare written in 1942 by Aaron Copland.
Fanfare for a Common Man, conducted by Lieutenant Colonel Cliff Ross. As the fanfare trumpeters march away, we prepare to meet our other guide on this journey to reconciliation, the actress Patricia Hodge.
Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. And none shall make them afraid, neither shall the sword go through their land. Mercy and truth are met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Open to me the gates of righteousness, I will go into them. Let all the nations be gathered together, and let the people be assembled, and let them hear and say, it is the truth. And it shall come that I will gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my glory. And I will set a sign among them, and they shall declare my glory among the nations. For as the new heavens and new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, so shall your seed and your name forever. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
And now the massed choirs with the European Union Youth Orchestra, with a new arrangement of familiar tunes from the British Isles.
This musical tribute to the home nations, Greensleeves and Men of Harlech, Danny Boy and Road to the Isles, has been arranged by the one-time Director of Music of the Royal Air Force, Barry Hingley. And I hope you noticed the Prince of Wales leading the community singing.
Now the choir and the orchestra accompany the National Youth Ballet of Great Britain for the Poloptian dances from Prince Igor by Borodin.
She shall be
In this long journey to reconciliation, we've come part of the way. The music of Russia is followed by poetry from America, and then Germany is represented by the last movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
A poem by Walt Whitman called Reconciliation. Word over all, beautiful as the sky, beautiful that war and all its deeds of carnage must in time be utterly lost, that the land of the sisters, death and night, incessantly, softly, wash again and ever again this soiled world. For my enemy is dead. A man divine as myself is dead. I look where he lies, white-faced and still in the coffin. I draw near, bend down, and touch lightly with my lips the white face in the coffin.
Everybody sang by Siegfried Sassoon. Everyone suddenly burst out singing, and I was filled with such delight as prisoned birds must feel in freedom, winging wildly across the white orchards and dark green fields, on, and out of sight. Everyone's voice was suddenly lifted, and beauty came like the setting sun. My heart was shaken with tears, and horror drifted away. Oh, but everyone was a bird, and the song was wordless. The singing will never be done.
Your Majesty, distinguished guests, now it is your turn. To your left, you will see a globe of the world made up of the flowers and the plants of all the countries that are represented here today. But there is a small patch of each country that is not yet completed. Now, young people from the Chicken Shed Theatre Company will invite you to go with them and with the children of the Voices Foundation to the globe to complete your own country in its flowers, and also to sign an olive leaf that will be placed inside as a token of all our hopes. Our world will then be completed under the dove of peace.
The Chicken Shed Theatre Company, that extends children of all abilities, now performs Peace Worth Living. The soloists are Catherine Turner and Kieran Rafferty.
Reaching out to you, a dreaming world turns to the sun to make a vision true. Turn a dream to a future, turn a future into now, and give the peace to the people. Let the people show you how.
War-torn world, coming round once more, dreaming still, it looks to you, with years to come unsure. Give a voice to the feeling, give the feeling room to grow. See the peace in the people, deep inside you let it show.
Oh, peace worth living. Oh, peace worth giving. Peace to the people. Peace to the people. Peace to you. And show us a peace worth living. Comes on the tide of time gone by. Oh, for the hope born from the sorrow. Peace in your hand, ready to fly. Oh, peace worth living. Oh, peace worth giving. Peace to the people. Peace to the people. Peace to you. Oh, peace afraid of living. Oh, peace afraid of giving. Peace outside. Peace to the crowd. Peace to you. Oh, peace shines on country and free. Oh, peace afraid of giving. Peace to the shame. Silence to the crowd. Peace to you. Peace.
that tumultuous applause which prepares the way for Katrina Carey, who's 8 years old and who will now invite Her Majesty the Queen to lead the procession to the Globe, where our international act of reconciliation will take place. There follows a moment to send a tremor of nervousness through crowned head and commentator alike, as each head of state has to make his or her way into the throng and find the small child wearing a sash with the appropriate national flag. King Hussein of Jordan, the Grand Duke of Luxembourg, Princess Benedicta of Denmark, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands, the Grand Duke of Luxembourg enjoying the London sunshine. Behind them are representatives of Botswana. There's the French ambassador. President Herzog of Germany will be making his way. The presidents of Bulgaria and Romania. Jim Bulger. Al Gore looking for his flag. And warm greetings for these children from Enfield. As flags are found, the procession is accompanied by children of the Voices Foundation from Finchley and Birmingham and Scunthorpe, singing One Choice Away. Her Majesty making her way towards this globe that's decked out in 200,000 and more flowers. King Hussein a few steps behind. Katrina Carey leading Her Majesty and Prince Philip to the appropriate flagpole as the procession of heads of state winds its way around the globe. Jim Bulger of New Zealand bringing up the rear of that group, together with the presidents of Azerbaijan and Latvia. Each country made up of the national flower. There have been worldwide searches for things like the lotus to make up India. They managed to find the Sublime Cotton Garden. Jordan presented the most serious problem, looking for black irises. I'm afraid they've had to cheat and paint blue ones. Her Majesty waiting for the other heads of state to take their places. Once in place, the heads of state will be met by 4 children from their own country, presented with flowers representing that country, orchids from Armenia, red carnations from Azerbaijan, water lilies from Bangladesh, cyclamen from Cyprus. Everyone warm, everyone pleased to meet the children from their country. The Voices Foundation will now perform Song for a Better Tomorrow, composed by Jan Tyszkiewicz, who at the age of 15 was imprisoned in Dachau. King Birendra of Nepal, talking to children from his country. The Doves of Peace making their escape from Hyde Park. And followed on their way by thousands of balloons. Dona Nobis Pacem by Bach introduces the procession of the children into the globe. Each head of state has signed an olive leaf, which will make up part of the world map. Each head of state, too, has been presented with a specially cast memorial medallion designed by Pierre Luck from Wandsworth, who won a competition organised by the BBC Newsround programme. King Mswati III of Swaziland follows Her Majesty. Being accompanied by Major Michael Parker, who's organised this event this afternoon. But everywhere there are keen eyes and smiling faces. It's a moment of sombre reflection, but also imbued with the optimism of youth, that reborn optimism of the generations that keeps all of us sane when history threatens to mow us down. His Royal Highness organising the rest of the event. And inside the globe, the pieces of the olive leaves are built up around the eternal flame to create an image of a world at peace. The counterpoint to this scene is that so many people represented here today have experienced the way that the tide of history has washed back and forth across them in the intervening years. One can only hope that permanent peace will touch them too. After all, among this gathering of heads of state are the leaders of Croatia and Bosnia. Here, President of Syria, Botswana. The route lined by veterans and the children of the flowers and cadets from the St. John Ambulance. Veterans from around the world. Smiles for Her Majesty in the Hyde Park sunshine, and smiles from Queen Beatrix, talking to one of the children of the flowers who are presenting bouquets as the heads of state make their way back to the royal box. Prince Haakon of Norway, one of the youngest heads of state, heirs to the throne, represented today. And everywhere we look, there are children getting lessons in international diplomacy. Thabo Mbeki, Deputy President of South Africa. And in these children's faces, there's the public affirmation of a quest for peace. A promise of peace made under the intense gaze of these children and in the eyes of hundreds of millions around the world. Accompanying Her Majesty through this joyous crowd, President Jela of Bulgaria, President Nur Hosolani of Trinidad and Tobago, the President of Botswana, Sir Ketumili Maziri, the President of Greece, Konstantinos Konstantinopoulos, representatives too of some of our forgotten allies, President Fernando Cardoso of Brazil. Brazil gave almost 200,000 troops to the efforts of the Second World War. King Hussein of Jordan. Her Majesty the Queen preparing to take her leave of the heads of state. Her Majesty with the Lord Lieutenant and Prince Philip. Each of these heads of state being presented now carries away in their hand this special medallion, a medallion designed with hands around a globe which will, with the shape of doves of peace, make up the continents. These scenes today remind us that peace is never a line drawn in the sand. Signatures on pieces of paper are beginnings, not ends in themselves. On VE Day 1945, we should remember, men still worked in room 109 at the War Office, coordinating the continuing war involving 1 million troops in the Southeast Asia Command. Taking their leave, the leaders of Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, of Moldova, Australia, Uzbekistan, Albania, Turkmenistan, Austria, Estonia, Lithuania, Slovakia, Jamaica, Latvia, Belgium, Azerbaijan, the Ukraine, Belarus, Gibraltar. Also represented here, the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth. Even if we have taken reconciliation a step closer, we must remember that war and the threat of war is a daily reality for many millions of people. Multinational wars have been ousted by civil wars. The involvement of so many humanitarian and relief agencies here at Hyde Park stands testimony to that. But remember those faces. Which head of state could not have been moved by those peaceful smiles and by that innocent intensity? Her Majesty saying farewell to the Grand Duke of Luxembourg, Colonel-in-Chief of the Irish Guards, served in the Irish Guards during the war. Prior to the Queen's departure, the royal standard is lowered as King Hussein bids his farewell. The children will be taking tales back to school of kings and presidents and foreign ministers whose hands they held on the way to the globe of peace. Flags of nations that we hope understand each other a little better. This orchestra is in itself a symbol of reconciliation, uniting the countries of Europe, and brave enough on occasions like this to bring in musicians from other countries, today from Russia, from America, emphasizing the internationality of this event. So much of the history of the 20th century is encompassed in these handshakes. Farewell kiss from the Crown Prince of Norway. On VE Day in 1945, Field Marshal Montgomery made a speech to his forces, which still echoes across these intervening years. "We have won the German war," he said. "Let us now win the peace. Without doubt, great problems lie ahead. There is much work for each of us. So let us embark on what lies ahead, full of joy and optimism. Good luck to you all."
I've been watching that with Sir Michael Howard. Impossible to argue with, a brilliant piece of invented ceremonial, but what we have seen is a wonderful piece of invented ceremonial, and the British are very good at inventing ceremonial.
I was immensely moved, and I think everybody here must have been. The point I think I'd make is that it's all very well signing peace treaties, which are then regarded as legally binding and may or may not be treated as so. But if they're really to move people, if they're really to enter into people's hearts, they've got to be reinforced with all that the art of music and drama and poetry can do. And this is what ceremony has always been about since the beginning of time. And in a way, this is what art and music has always been about. Almost all the arts originated in some kind of political purpose in order to reinforce people's will, people's agreement, people's worship. And to have them all coming together for a great political purpose like this, political in the broadest sense of the word, I think is in itself a magnificent ceremony, and I think also that it could really have a real impact upon the way in which the world goes.
The fact is that what Montgomery said, what Eric Robson just quoted, remains even more true. After all this, on Tuesday morning, the real problems of the world reappear. We've made all sorts of commitments, but we still have to go back to the real problems of the real world.
Well, it is like Monday morning after having been to church. I mean, this in a way is like a great ceremonial mass. It has not been blessed by any particular religion, but it has had the same purpose. And as with church, the dwindling number of us who go there, we go to church and we say we are going to be good in future, and our goodwill is reinforced by all the ceremony of the masses, everything else. And then we have to go back into the real world, the office next day, and see how far any of that is going to stick.
Well, we have been very good, very genuinely good, and moved with it this afternoon. Michael Howard, thank you very much. So the end of an event of reconciliation, expressed in those essential signs of peace, music, the dance, the human voice, with children leading the leaders in the direction of non-violence. This evening, you can see the Royal British Legion's show that turned Hyde Park into a huge variety palace as entertainment stars from yesterday and today paid their nostalgic tribute to the entertainment and entertainers who kept Britain laughing and singing in wartime. Join us again tonight. For the moment, goodbye from the VE Day celebrations in Hyde Park.